Hello, this is Skell Cobb 37, and I have in the past done some interviews with some friends, gaming friends that I've known for many years, and just gotten their story about how they were involved with gaming. And today I saw this guy down at the grocery store, and his name is Jim Eilers, and he has played over here in the past. Those of you that have watched, it's been a few years, and he's one of those old school guys that even though he may have said when he started, I'm pretty sure it was probably way back in the early days.
81.
And that would be what edition, if you remember?
The original red box and blue box.
Okay, yeah. So I never played those. I started with first edition AD&D. But Jim is he lives in the same area of the country that I live in, and we always talk about gaming when we get the chance. He comes in and buys some food at the store, and we chit chat, and it's always nice to catch up with him. So Jim, first of all, thanks for taking the time out to talk with me today. I really appreciate it. So I don't have a thing written down where I go through. We just kind of whatever comes off the top of our heads. So, but let me first ask, you kind of touched on this already. Can you remember your earliest experiences? Who introduced you, or how did you even learn that Dungeons and Dragons was a thing?
Oh, that was easy. My older brother got me into it.
And
he started me with actually the first experience with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the old books, and then I moved back. I actually digressed to the blue box and the red box, getting other people involved. And then we just progressed forward.
Do you remember the feeling of, like, what is this? This is so cool. This is something I've never even knew existed.
I didn't get that feeling until 82 when I went to the first Gen Con. I was young. When
you say the first Gen Con, is in the first Gen Con, or your personal first Gen Con?
It would have been my first, and I believe it was either the first or second for TSR.
Okay, and did you live close enough where you could go, or you just heard of this thing and you drove?
Yeah, we traveled.
That must have been an experience. What were you, like 16 at the time, or?
Not even close.
Yeah.
I was like 12.
Amazing. And tell me a little bit about that. Who did you go with, and how did your parents agree to let you go on this cross-country journey? I don't know where you were living back in 82, so.
Well, I went with my older brother. That's how the agreement went. We both went.
And he was old enough to drive, I guess?
Yeah, he was 16.
Okay, right on. And what do you remember most about was that your first con?
That was the first con.
And tell me, what if you had to, what memory stands out to you being a young guy, and, like, I'm guessing it wasn't anything like it is now, but I wouldn't know. I've never been to a Gen Con.
No, it's nothing like it is now. I mean, back then it was basically tables set up to play. They were running tournaments. We sat down with characters at a table and played. And you played until your character was dead or survived.
And this was, was that all it was? Was a gaming convention versus what it is now, a big media thing?
As far as I remember, I mean, God, that's a long time ago. That's all that I really remember it being, because that's all we did there. We sat down and we played a game. It was the first tournament that I've ever played at.
And I would be remiss to ask, did you meet any of the founding fathers of the actual game back then, or was it that they weren't around?
Gary was there.
Okay.
So we met him. I mean, you don't really talk to him, but you meet him.
Okay. So you didn't get a chance to... Well, of course you were 12. I don't know if you would have wanted to have a talk with an old graybeard.
Yeah. Well, he was an old gray beard back then.
Okay.
Not yet.
Very good. Very good. And so I need to ask, so you said you went with your brother and he introduced you. Does your brother still game? No,
No, not at all.
that's unfortunate. He doesn't know what he's missing. But that's okay. So you went to Gen Con. That's awesome. Probably good memories there. And then, so by then, were you involved in a steady game back at home, or was it a hit or miss kind of thing?
In the beginning, it was hit or miss. I mean, you got to remember back in the early '80s. That's also when D&D was getting attacked by the religious groups as being the devil's game, and parents weren't letting kids play it. So.
Was that something that mattered in your household, or was that a non-issue?
Not at all.
Okay.
I just lost players to it. That's all.
Really?
We had some players that, when their moms found out they were playing D&D, they got nixed from the game because they weren't allowed to.
Do you keep in contact, or do you know anything about whatever happened to those guys, or that's just so long ago?
I did up and through high school, but after that, no.
Okay. Well, high school is farther enough back for both of us, I think. But yeah. All right. So I have to ask, what was your first character? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was a mage.
Mage?
Still have it.
Named?
Krull.
Like the movie Krull, or a different?
Before the movie Krull existed, yes.
Okay. And tell me about Krull.
Well, as of right now, when I stopped playing him, he was a level 19 mage out of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Right on.
I also pulled him. He was the character I played at the first Gen Con I was at. I got to keep him. He survived.
Did you make him up, or was he given to you then and you brought him home?
No, we made the characters there.
Very nice.
And then I brought him home.
And out of all the adventures that you had with Krull, could you note like one of his crowning achievements where the dice gods favored Krull in that moment and it lived forever, or the reverse, the dice gods cursed him and he died one of those deaths that people will still talk about after the game is over?
No, he never died. I never lost him. Let's see. Where would he be sitting right now if we were still in that campaign? I believe the last adventure he went on, we went after the Axe of Dwarvish Lords.
And was this something, do you remember who the dungeon master was that for you, or?
No, one of my older friends who doesn't play anymore.
Right on.
He was running it.
And what was Krull? So was he human mage, or?
He was a half elf.
Half elf. All right. And 19th level, so he had probably access to pretty much the whole player's handbook worth of spells.
His grimoire had every single spell in it that I remember.
Very good. And then when you, because we've talked, many times about you enjoyed being the DM like I do. So did he make appearances for you as an NPC in games that you would run?
He ran in my campaign that I ran. He ran the University of Magic.
Okay.
So he was the head honcho of the University of Magic.
Right on. And when you ran your campaign, was it a world that you made out of scratch, or did you use like a pre-written, like a World of Greyhawk or what have you?
So the world itself is something I created, but I played it. I ran it as a 3-to-1. So every third adventure, it'd be a pre-made that I stuck into the campaign. Everything else was scratch made.
Interesting. 3-to-1. What was that? Something that you you did on purpose, or that was just the way it worked out, or, and if it was on purpose, what was the point of making it 3-1?
So the purpose of making it 3-1 is I don't like handing out magic items. I'm not a big fan of the, if you got the best equipment, you're going to survive, and that's the only way to survive. So in my pre-made stuff, magic, as far as items go and that, you didn't really see them, you didn't find them. I used the pre-mates to introduce them. So every third adventure, they had the ability to find magic items.
I see. Okay, so, okay, that's interesting. All right, so let's jump forward a little bit. At what age did the DMing bug strike you, and you
14.
14. So,
and it struck me out of necessity.
Was it one of those situations where no one else wanted to do it, but you wanted to play so bad that you were willing to bite the bullet, so to say?
And not play and run, yes.
Right. And in hindsight, that was probably when you really started to sink your teeth into the meat and bones of the game, I'm guessing.
For the most part.
Yeah. I think that is a common story, and it says to me why DMs are some of the most devoted players. They want to play any way they can. It's kind of like a bunch of guys who are willing to pour water on the ground when it's cold outside, just so they can play hockey instead of having to get a bunch of guys and meet up at the rink or whatever. They just want to play. So, yeah, that's very cool. Do you still have your original dice?
I have bits and pieces of the original sets.
I do not have my original dice. So I have one dice that is original to me, but not. I don't think it's like from a set or anything. It's just something I purchased, and it's just kind of sitting behind me now. So tell me, do you have a certain D20 that you like to think of has a mystical quality of being able to roll really good for you?
I have a D20 that every player I have hates.
Okay, and what color is it?
Solid black.
Solid black. Very good. Are the edges starting to round off?
Nope.
No. Okay. Yeah. That's good. Do you think there's any truth to it that the dice is actually I don't know what the term for blessed. That the term is blessed and will always roll good for you, or is that just something the players kind of cling to?
Like I didn't say cursed.
That die I don't use all that often anymore because they've accused me of having it loaded.
And so it's just easier to kind of set it aside instead of
it's there.
fight with
It's
them.
there and it gets used, but they'll accuse me of it's loaded, and then I will hand it to them and let them roll it, and they can't.
Yeah. I've never actually, that I'm aware of, ever actually seen or played with loaded dice, but I have had some players tell me I'm not allowed to use my blue dice of death. So I like you, instead of fighting it, okay, you can just go sit back there.
No. They don't get to tell me I don't get to use it. I just choose not to.
Sure.
Unless they start getting too cocky at the table, and then the dice shows up. But it's always there.
So you believe it too, huh? You think the dice gods have blessed that black dice for you?
So I played other games, and one was called Hacktastic D20, and the game. It's a local game. I don't even know if they're still in business anymore. It is based solely on D20s. That's the only dice you roll in the entire game. That die at one of their TPK tournaments rolled 9 20s in a row on it.
Amazing.
And they took that dice, they spun it, they did everything, they banned it from me being able to use it. And then they're like going, you rolled it somehow that you were doing that. I'm like going, all I do is roll the die. You watch me roll it on the table. I had 2 of the judges standing around me every time I rolled it.
Well, I would like to think that that's a world record, but I'm sure there's
I doubt it.
someone
I
out
don't
there.
even know.
Yeah, someone out there somewhere has seen 10, but I have only seen 3. That's the record here at my house. Okay, so you're 14 and you start world building, or is it just you start running pre-mades and then you start to get the itch to start creation?
We didn't have an option. We were poor. We couldn't buy pre-mades. We couldn't afford them. So it was initial world building.
Okay.
And it was simple. I mean, we'd take graph paper and draw out a land map.
Sure.
And that's about it. And then start building from there.
Did you did you use anything for inspiration, like any Dragon magazine articles or
Not until later.
any other things, or any like fantasy books or anything, or cartoons like The Hobbit maybe?
Well, to put it to you bluntly, I only read fantasy. It's the only books you could get me to read at that age. So Conan the Barbarian, oh God, what was the other one?
Lankmar, the Mouser, the Fafhrd and the Great Mouser?
I read it, but not till later.
Okay.
I don't think I read that till I was about 17 or 18.
How about the Michael Moorcock, Elric and Corum and all those? Have you given those a chance?
I've used them.
I
I read through them. More or less what we did is I went through the monster manual and went, hey, these look like cool to fight. Let's figure out how to fight them.
Very good. I may have heard something like that from another player in the past, but I will not name names. All right, so let's move on then to when second edition came out. Did you move to that, or did you stick with what you knew? Like, how much were you into the new thing?
Well, yeah, but when second edition came out, when you were playing first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it really didn't change much. It added to it. So you didn't. The mechanics didn't change. They just added tactics to it. And to a point, yeah, we used it. I mean, but we didn't go anything spectacular into it.
Okay. I know from talking to you previously that you, if I remember correctly, you really enjoyed 3.5. Is that correct?
That is my niche.
Okay. So how long did it take after that came out before you decided that it would be worth your effort to really jump into that system?
I didn't jump into that system until 2000.
When did it come out?
Well, let's see. You had 3.0, then 3.5. I'm not sure. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, I didn't play much third at all. I just got to second and just stayed. But third definitely had some good ideas, I think. Obviously, changing from THAC-0 to armor class moving up was most people's idea. That was the best thing that they did, and I don't disagree. I just never switched.
You know a system. You know a system. You keep with what you know.
Yeah, and that's basically it, just for speed of play instead of having to look everything up, because I look up occasionally things as it is now. So okay, and then can you remember say a particular group or story or whatever that was like long running, where you were really able to get into a part of the game that some people would call like really deep dive into the role playing? Or was that a thing that wasn't something that you were drawn to? Like, were you drawn more to the RP or the crunchy bits, or a good mixture of both? What sort of flavor did you like when you were the man that was telling the story?
players tell the story.
Right.
So it's what they wanted. If they wanted a dungeon crawl hack and slash, that's what we played. I never changed my world. My world's always been the same from the original one that I built. I just add them in different places.
What did you enjoy? Were you good with, like?
I was good with any of it.
So if you had a session that was 4 hours of nothing but conversation, like a Kevin Smith movie, you were just as good as if you had a battle set up and it took a long time to resolve. You were good with both.
I was good with either one. I mean, I've had sessions where it was 4 hours of nothing but talking around the table. And that now some players find that very boring. Some find it intriguing. To me, there's the old adage. It takes you 3 minutes to move 3 days in the game and 3 hours to do a combat. So it just depends on the people. I tailored it to the players.
And
from the beginning.
When you say you tailored it to the players, did you ever have a stretch, or maybe it's currently, where you could consistently count on the same players showing up and you got into a real good flow?
My first campaign from the original start of 14 ran for 4.5 years before I lost any players. We played every single Saturday night. Without fail, without no one missing.
Before Satan came and took them away?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
We had, even that when that happened, I mean, it was 1 or 2 players, and they were easily replaced at that time, but it was more of a kids getting together, unlike now, where they don't. I mean, I've tried running games on the internet. I don't like it. There's no interaction. You can't read the people.
Yeah, unfortunately, COVID's kind of messed some stuff up. But as I said, when you're really wanting to play, sometimes you'll bite the bullet and you'll find a way. Trust me, I know about what you speak. So in my game, there's nobody that is local right now. There's a guy in Florida, a guy in Sullivan, which is about an hour away. Another guy that's somewhere in the heart of Cedar Hill or further out. I'm not exactly sure where he lives. And then where's the fourth one? The fourth one is like South County or something, but they there's like, life gets in the way and you just can't. There might be a new wife involved or kids or something. So I understand that. Speaking of which, I can hear Donna in the background there. So hi Donna.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. And then I think I also saw a fur baby there in the picture for a second. Who was that?
Yeah, that's the Hellhound. That's my Hellhound. That's Rascal.
Rascal. Okay. And how old's Rascal?
7.
7. Very good. Is he a good boy?
No.
No. I assume it's a boy. I guess it could be.
There's a reason I called him a Hellhound.
Okay.
It's
okay. Okay. So when you had that good flow of players back in the early days, can you give me like a time or a moment where everyone around the table was just blown away by what happened, either spontaneously or a plan worked or something in your game where you were like, no, that was cool? Like, for examples, was there a time when the big bad evil guy or dragon or whatever, you had made it to that point and then, oh no, ultimate total party kill? Or in reverse, their plan just worked and the dice they couldn't fail and you were just like, there you go guys, you got it.
Um, well, there's several, and most of them revolve around TPKs. So
Okay. Now, before we jump into a TPK, what is your feeling about a total party kill? Like, are you a guy like me who's a big softy and really does not want to do a total party kill and may or may not roll to see if something randomly can come along to help, or are you the kind that you set this up and if the dice just if they make the bad decision and the dice say they're all going to die, then that's just the way it goes? Or was there a time in your past, because I'm going to assume that since we're older we don't do this now, that you took the slightest amount of glee in dashing your players against the rocks and watching them thrash about, and somehow they always wanted to come back for more? Where would you fall into those areas?
as a rule, I never tried to kill a party. To be honest with you, with characters to die in my campaign, they actively have to do something stupid enough to die. It can randomly happen in combat, yes. I mean, that's the laws of the dice. I mean, you can get killed in combat. But to get a total party kill, they got to break some serious rules in role-playing that they don't realize they're breaking, like, oh, let's split up the group and go different directions in a dungeon. That always gets them killed.
Never split the party. That's almost rule zero. It's not, but it's almost rule zero. At least it should be rule zero for players.
That is a core rule that you just don't want to break. Now, I've set it up where, yes, they had to split the party.
Sure.
But I don't try and kill anybody.
Was there ever a death that actually made you sad? Let's delve a little deeper into this psychological thing, because players can get very, very attached to their characters, which is why some of them really, really like want to fight you on rulings or the way things are. I mean, I don't think it's because they necessarily want to control, but they really they want to survive and they want to win. But as far as the dungeon masters go, we're just supposed to be referees. But I'll admit, I get attached to characters, and I can't help it. So what about you?
My personal characters, yeah, I get attached to them.
No, your players.
I try and get my players to get attached to them. I had a couple that, I got one. He walked in with 19 character sheets.
He just expected.
They were all the same guy with different names.
Well,
he had every intention of dying. He had no attachment to it all. And there was a time where I would require him to do a backstory, put some effort into making the character. Because otherwise it's, oh, well, we're going to do this, and we're just going to run in and try and slaughter everything.
Sure, it's like World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah, sure.
Not that I've ever played World of Warcraft, but I know Leroy Jenkins' stories, so that's what comes to mind.
World of Warcraft. But I don't know. I mean, there were some people that got attached to him, and yeah, they were sad to see him go. I mean, Jason, a good friend of mine, he lost his bard. The only bard I've ever seen make it to level 15. And he was quite sad.
Did that bother you when that character, or did you somehow?
Well, it bothered me because he died of no fault to what Jason was doing.
So you're saying the dice gods ruled that day?
Not even the dice gods. Another character rigged it.
Oh.
His bard, I mean, now, I still haven't told him to this day, but his bard was technically assassinated. And it's the reason I instituted the policy of no PvP.
Sure.
No player-on-player killing, because they literally assassinated him, and the dice rolled for him not to figure it out.
Right on. Well, I can see how that would be sad. But I guess there was nothing you could do because the plan was just carried out so well.
So on that one, what happened is in the campaign setting, Jason couldn't make it 1 week. And the group kind of sought out the Brotherhood of the Hand, which was the Assassin's Guild. And they made a deal with them. And when I use the Assassin's Guild at all, they've got to prove their worth to them before they'll do any work for them. It's not just a pay for play with the Assassins. You can't just take a contract out. They for Assassins, they had morals.
Or at least a code, right?
Well, they had, I set up a code, but they also had morals. I mean, the guy had to do something that was pretty horrific for them to take the contract. And they bluffed their way through it. And they lied through their damn teeth.
How many players did you have at that time, and how many of them were actively involved in the plot to assassinate Jason?
I had a total of 6 players, and 4 of them were involved.
Okay. And why did they want to assassinate one of their, I mean, were they one of those groups, or was it like what would cause someone to turn on,
Their alignment. Jason was playing a chaotic good bard.
Okay.
And they were ranging from chaotic neutral to neutral evil. And so it was part of the storyline, though. I mean, they were trying to figure out a way to get the good guy to stop giving shit away, and he wouldn't. He was playing the Robin Hood bard. So every time they would do something nefarious, he'd turn them in. I'm not saying Jason didn't deserve to get assassinated. I mean, you turn in your own group. I think they spent several sessions in jail because of him.
So it sounds like it sounds like it wasn't one of those deals where someone was bored and just so they could take an active moment in the game, they were like, I'm going to start shit because I'm selfish and I want to steal the spotlight from other players. It sounds like it was pretty legit. That's kind of the way you're making it sound.
That's what kind of made it sad, the fact that they thought they had to do that. And I when it comes to doing guilds like the Thieves Guilds and the Assassin Guilds, I make it very difficult to even find them. You might run into an assassin, but to actually find the guild takes work. And it's
they put in the work?
They put in the work for it,
Well,
which
there
is
you
why
go.
I let it happen.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's willing to put in the work, then like in real life, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, you will achieve some type of success or move forward towards your goal. So, all right, okay, so that happened. How long ago are we talking? That's like 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Roughly.
Okay. So, and then in your 3.5 days, you were running that as well, or did you? We talked about this at the store. What was tell me about the time when you were able to run the game at the hobby shop. That's a fascinating story because I occasionally read about someone being paid to DM in some online publication.
2004 to 2009. There was a game shop that's no longer there in Eureka that I ran out of and was paid to run the games. I mean, we were running to the point of I had to bring other DMs in because I was running 14 people at a table and I couldn't do it. It was just too many. And it's because there was nowhere else to play. They kept coming back. By 2009, I believe I had 7 tables running with 7 different DMs every single Thursday night. And it was random people coming in off the street to play.
And was this something that the game shop that you, was it like sponsored by them, or it just happened to be like it was the hangout, but it happened they were donating the space?
In the beginning, we weren't getting paid at all to play there. It was a location I prefer neutral locations to play at. I don't like playing at people's houses, especially if it's not mine and I'm not running the game, because sometimes feelings get hurt and the attitude of I'm taking my toys and going home happens, and people get kicked out. I try and keep it neutral, where there's a place where everybody comes there, we play there, and then they leave, and if there's a problem, we can move on without him. So, but we weren't getting paid originally to play there. The shop owners gave us the space, said, yeah, sure, no problem. And hell, he became one of my players. But it made business for him. And when we started getting too many people, I added a cover charge to play, because just to limit the number of people at the table. Those who serious enough and willing to pay sat and played. And granted, it wasn't much. I mean, I think I charged $5 a person at the table, and we took that money and dumped it right back into the game anyway.
And was the shop? I'm guessing they were probably making money off like snacks and drinks and stuff.
People buying the books through them, minis, dice.
So it sounds like a good relationship was worked out between you and the owner of the shop. But as we all know, all good things must end. So what happened to the shop? Was there a downturn in the economy or something? Or I remember that you're talking about right after the housing crisis. So
he was tired of running it. He micromanaged the shop when he wasn't there. He would show up randomly. So it was his entire life. So he got tired of it and just shut it down.
That was probably a bummer.
It lost my space to play at.
Yeah. Okay. So during those times, you had 7 tables all going at the same time?
7 tables, 6 players per table.
So was it something where the DMs that showed up, they all had just their own game, but they were all these games were happening in the same place, or was there some type of interrelation between the tables and the games?
So it was all the same adventure. And we did that on purpose, because that way anybody that walked in could sit down at any one of the tables, whichever their favorite DM, whoever, and they'd be in virtually the same place. So they could rotate around in tables, play with different people. And that, but it was always the same adventure. Every day. Different ones, but the same one running on all 7 tables.
And how often were you there? Like, were you kind of supervising, or you were just you were one of the DMs? You were one of the guys?
I was running the table.
Okay. And then, so how many nights a week, or was that a once a week thing, or?
That was Thursday nights only.
Okay, once a week. Very good.
We had to work around the Magic the Gathering, the Pokemon, and the Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments that the shop ran.
So it sounds like the shop had a good, I don't know what the word would be. I was going to say a good base of customers, but you know what I mean. A good mix, like probably a pretty busy place if there's that many games going on. So
generally, he had something going on every night. It's just that we were Thursday night.
Right on. And then, do you have any contact with any of those people, or they're all scattered to the 4 winds?
Friend of mine that's Kevin. We're still in touch with him. He was one of my other DMs. Hell, I married him. I performed the ceremony for him and his wife, which met at my gaming table.
Well, hey, love happens in mysterious ways, so whatever works. Okay, so that was, you said mid-2000s, sounded like 2004 to 2009?
2004 to 2009.
Okay. So, in that time, were you? What was your regular job? Like, how did you make a living during that time?
I run the antique mall in Eureka.
So you were doing that back then, even.
Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. So that, and I know where the antique mall is, so I'm guessing the game shop couldn't have been that far away.
So if you know where the antique mall is, you know where Dickie Bub's, the old Ponderosa was.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
B&B Game Shop was back in that plaza.
Okay, right on. I guess I never went in there. I didn't know it was there. So after that place closed, were you able to cobble together another game, or were you in a game hole for a little while?
We were in a game hole for a little while. I mean, and then we started switching to different games. We played Gloomhaven when it came out for a year.
Now, when you say we, it sounds like there's still a core group of friends that you were able to maintain? Or?
It was most of the DMs.
Okay.
It was most of the DMs. I mean, and then, my wife Donna, and then Kevin's wife Jackie, and then one or two would filter in. I mean, I prefer a table of 4 or more, up to 4. I'm done with running 6 or more. But no, it works out. I like the smaller tables.
Okay. So what do you got going on currently? Anything?
As of right now, nothing.
Nothing. Okay.
COVID kind of killed everything.
Now we had talked at the store. You were gonna run something for, I think, like a cousin or a nephew or something, and these are young adults. Is that correct?
They're 10, 12, and 13.
Okay, so kind of like when you started. So what was that experience like now that you were approaching it from the other side of the table, or the age, with all of your years and wisdom, trying to corral young minds that have all these other things that they can go to, and video games and social media, and life is a little different for a 12-year-old now than it was when you and I were 12. I would assume you would agree with that.
Yeah.
So tell me how that went, and if you would rate it successful, or just like it's just too difficult.
I have a handicap to that one because I don't like 5th edition. 5th edition reminds me of a video game. It's all linear. And that's what they were playing. And they lost interest. I have one who's playing Pathfinder right now, but he's playing online. And we found it difficult to get together. I have 2 days off a week, and they all live in St. Charles and St. Peter's.
Okay, all right. And that's not something that you've said that playing online is not optimal for you, and that's not something that you wouldn't do that just to get your fix in, or what's your feeling about that?
Well, if you look directly behind me, you'll see my workbench that I do all of my miniature building.
I did see that. I was like, it looks like he's in his workshop there.
I mean, I prefer in-person playing. I like the table. I like the scenery. I do the 3D terrain. I do not like the computer aspect of it, other than you can't really read the person sitting there. I mean, I can change things in a game if they look bored, if they look angry. And yes, you can see it on the camera, but they're also looking at doing something else, like playing another game on a split screen, and they're not paying attention. I just find it more social interactive in person, and to be honest with you, I find it a better game.
Right on. Well, I would agree with that. So let's change gears a little bit. You mentioned your wife, Donna. Now, of course, I've met her, and you both came over and played over here for a little while. I probably had too many people at the table, but what do you find that playing with your significant other is like it's a non-issue, like she becomes just another player, or are you always aware that this is a person that you have to live with, and you need to be careful because there's real life and then there's our game.
He killed me.
Well, she said I've killed her characters, so. I mean, no, we keep it separate. I mean, we enjoy playing the games together, and yes, we'll attach characters depending on the setting. I mean, if we're walking into a new table, not knowing anything, not knowing the background of the storylines of what's going on, as a first-time sit-down, yeah, generally our characters are attached because we're the two new ones walking into the table. At least that way, you watch each other's back a little bit until you read the room and figure out what people are doing. I mean, hell, the first time we played at your table, I pretty much sat there quiet for the first hour and a half to 2 hours. Just reading the room, seeing who was what, see who your power characters were, who the limelight stealer was, and the attention hog. And that, I mean, it's what I was doing when I was sitting there. The first session, I don't generally interact if I don't know the people. I mean, I play. My characters will do things that it needs to do, or I feel I need to do, but otherwise I sit and watch and see how they interact first, as characters. And, yeah, I've killed my wife's character.
And did I heard her say that? Yeah,
Not on purpose, but you know, something stupid happened. Dice gods weren't happy.
Yeah, that'll happen to the best of us, won't it? Well, that's good. I when I was married, my wife did not understand or think that the game was. She just didn't get it. So I think that you're very fortunate in having someone that you can share that with, that gets the nerdiness and can hop in with both feet. So that's a wonderful thing. So in a perfect world, let's say COVID is over and you're able to have whoever at your table or go somewhere else. What would you like? Like if you could pick, would it be to go back to having a game store to game in, or would it be having a dedicated, like let's say a spare house in the backyard that was only for the game? Like in your fantasy setup, what would you pick?
The sad thing is I've actually thought about that.
Well, we all have, because I want a separate house in the backyard just for or like a trailer, and it's just where all the games go. Everyone parks back there. No one has to come in the house. So yeah, I get it. That's why I asked.
Well, to be honest with you, I want the game shop, but I want to run the game shop.
Okay.
I want it to be mine, because my sole problem with everything is hauling all of the gear and everything you need to run the game to the location every single time.
Oh yeah.
It worked out at the game shop because I had a cabinet there that I could put everything in and leave it. I mean, and I would have elaborate 3D maps for the table. So I had all the props, everything there. And so if I was having to do it again, yeah, a separate house or even a 14 by 14 building
like
heated,
like a gaming barn.
Yeah, I mean that would be optimal to get everybody back together and playing. But the other bigger thing is location. I mean, you got to have a spot to do it.
Sure, but
let's face it, we don't live in the most populated area for gaming.
Well,
I prefer to be.
Yeah, go. I was going to say, I assume you're right. I really wouldn't know. I haven't been anywhere else other than Herculaneum, and it's kind of like here. So,
I mean, to be honest with you, for the best game, for getting the players out to play, I mean, I don't want the younger kids, the 10 to 12-year-olds, not because I don't want them playing, because I do. I don't want them because I don't want to have to referee verbal content coming out of players' mouths. Like, okay, we got to keep it PG or PG-13 because we have the younger ones at the table. Now, as I said, I won't turn anyone away. If they walk into play, they walk into play. And respectfully, if they're the younger ones, then yeah, it's kept at PG or PG-13. But otherwise, fantasy-wise, perfect world, open game in a private room, it'd be perfect. Somewhere I can set up where I can have a sound system built into it and everything else, so you can immerse yourself in the atmosphere.
You know, I have all the tools to do that. I just can't get around to setting it up. I had this used to be my like TV room, so I had the surround speakers already there. But every time I get too into the game and I don't think about stopping and setting the mood. Sometimes I'll click on a background song and just let it go. You know, because they make these wonderful ambient YouTube channels where it'll sound like you're in a town or the woods or whatever. So, but yeah, that would be pretty cool.
And ultimately having the time to do it.
Yes.
I mean, now I'm working 50 to 60 hours a week. There's not much time left there.
No. That time is the most valuable resource, that's for sure. So, how are you going to get yourself back into game? I get the feeling that you love this game just as much, probably more than I do, and that's a lot. So, what can we do to get you back involved? Not necessarily with me, but you involved somewhere doing something. And that's almost more of a rhetorical question because I like to see creative people be able to do their thing, and it's obvious that you've got the bug. You just what are you gonna do, Jim?
I'm working on that actually. The issue right now is we have another location we're looking at. The St. Louis County Library System built a new building in front of my antique mall, and they haven't opened up the rooms to the public yet. So we're looking into doing that. That way I can get people there coming in. It's a neutral location. Let them come play.
Well, that'd certainly be convenient for you.
Convenience is the issue. It's got to be convenient.
You're gonna have to close. Yeah, you're gonna have to close the shop a couple hours early so you can get in those gaming sessions.
So.
Very good. Well, I hope that you can return, because as we get older, we know that we need to do those things that bring us joy. And that's what I want for you and your wife and what Rascal.
Yeah. Where is he anyway?
Anyway, you've been playing since '81, and I like to pick their brains, people who have been gaming and the creative types, because there's always something that you can pick up. I mean, hell, that's all we're doing is playing someone else's creation and expanding on it. So even the people that make a lot of money off this online, they've got their ideas from somewhere. So, you know, we got to go back to the guys that wrote it originally, like 74, I think?
I think it's 74 when it came out. 74, 76, something like that.
And I know that those guys are just like every other generation. They're dropping, unfortunately. So, but that's cool you were able to go to a Gen Con. I might have to do that before I go. Who knows? We'll see. But right now we're just trying to get through this COVID shit. So, Jim, I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to talk with me today. I always enjoy sharing stories with you around the produce and around the eggs down at the store. Hopefully, very soon your plans will come to fruition, and you'll have more stories to tell me whenever you come shopping. I can ask you what happened in your game, because those are always fun to hear. So,
Oh yeah,
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
not a problem. You're welcome.
All right, I'll see you later, brother.
All right, bye.